What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, guys, I want to talk about land, and as you can see here from the amount of DEC that has been staked on land, we are just shy of 1.5 billion, which would mean that we would have about 20% land utilization from a DEC staking perspective. Now, that is the only perspective that matters to me because, sure, we could have 99% of lands up and running, but if they only have, single level cards on them and it's or 1 BCX cards on them and, the amount of DEC being staked is minimal, that's not really going to do much for the game economy. What we want to see is a ton of land being utilized to its fullest potential because people want whatever the resources and, items and spells and all that stuff are going to be on there. So what's interesting to me, and this video is kind of based on a conversation from a previous live stream. What's fascinating for me right now is when you go through and look at land, right? First of all, it's not, it hasn't really popped off the way that I was hoping it would. I was really hoping we'd see roughly like 30%, which would add another like 700 to 800 million DEC staked. But what's interesting when you run a lot of the numbers, and we were doing this on the previous live stream, is that land, at least in its current form, is not profitable. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. It's not as lucrative as going out and just maybe buying SPS or even buying cards and renting cards on the market, right? Especially like Rebellion cards. So when you look at the APRs, the returns, the potential upside, right? So let's say you were to, I think the example that I gave is like you take $100, you buy the cheapest land, you buy the cheapest cards, you stake DEC, and then, you see what kind of return you can get. If you compare that to just buying $100 worth of SPS, right? First of all, it's much easier to do. Secondly, there's also a ton of upside potential. Sure, you don't have exposure to different asset classes like cards and land, but you also don't have exposure to stable coins like DEC. So it could go up, it could go down, right? Plus, you're also earning something that's somewhat reliable. You're earning in-kind SPS, you're earning vouchers, right? All these different things. So the main kind of thesis that I took from that and that I'm sharing here is that land, at least in its current form, and maybe even in the future with the launch of 2.0 and beyond, land is not for investors. I know it seems a little counterintuitive, but again, if you are just looking at ROI, which many people in this community are, right? And I'm not trying to demonize anything. I'm not saying one thing is good or bad, or like if you're an investor, like go have at it, right? But you're looking at this objectively and wondering, well, where's the better play in the ecosystem to make a return? It's just not going to be land, right? I actually think that's a good thing. Again, nothing against investors, nothing against players. It doesn't really matter. But it makes land in the Splinterlands ecosystem, and more specifically compared to the card game, it makes land very much all about the game itself. Now, there's not much happening right now. There's no empire building because the resources haven't gone live, the buildings haven't gotten live, right? The whole ancient ruins and Secret of Praetoria stuff, that hasn't gotten live yet. So the actual game itself isn't even live. But the people who are participating are there purely because they love whatever, the idea of land could be. Are there some people that might be playing the long game, right? Are there some people who are just like, yeah, you know what? These assets could be more valuable in the future, so therefore I'm willing to put some time and energy and put stuff away? Absolutely. But those are not hardcore investors because hardcore investors want a return. Hardcore investors are people that are looking, and again, nothing against hardcore investors. Maybe they're looking to extract, maybe they're looking to compound, whatever it is. But the rewards, the APR, the returns, it's just not there in land the way that it is for many other aspects. Now, you could look at land as almost like a safer investment, if you wanted to call it that, right? And again, none of this is financial advice, but I'm just saying, like, you're holding on to DEC, the value of that DEC is going to be roughly the same, as long as DEC stays close to peg. You're looking at land, right? I think we've bottomed out with land potentially. Maybe it goes down further, but over time, as more stuff for land comes out, hopefully utilization goes up, and there's an upside potential to land. The cards that you're staking on land, they may get more scarce over time as people burn, combine, all that, right? So there is some there is some upside potential, but it's not the same as like holding SPS, for example, maybe holding specific cards, right? Like Riftwatcher cards or Rebellion cards, which we know are part of the current meta and will be for the foreseeable future. So in a way, I kind of like it. And again, I'm participating in land at almost like a very minimum, right? But it makes me excited for what land will be, because maybe we never get to a point where land just becomes this like, oh my gosh, everybody's aping in because the returns are crazy. And don't get me wrong, that has its benefits too, because then all of a sudden people come in and explore the game, explore the ecosystem, and find, that the card game is actually exciting. Maybe if they come in and Soul Keep is out, they realize that, they came for the returns on land, but they stayed for the tower defense game that's in the ecosystem. But even if that doesn't happen, what we talk about is there, are people here for the game itself? When you look at the trading card game, right, with the amount that people can earn, with the amount that's available there, once again, if you're an investor, playing the card game is not one of the best ways to make money in the ecosystem, just speaking honestly, right? And it's just like it's time intensive, right? It's resource intensive, like it's all these different things where you'll need to actually play. But people enjoy it for what it is, and there's still a gamification of it, which I think is going to end up extending to land. Right now, I think land is in this interesting place where, sure, there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of diehard loyalty, right? There's a lot of people who just have been waiting years for land, and now they just want to play it, right? And even if in its most basic form. But it gets me excited for land because kind of no matter what happens, it to me will end up being a really positive thing in the ecosystem. And obviously the team and Matt specifically are very much focused on it being one of the major cornerstones of what happens in the Splinterlands ecosystem overall. But the fact that it's going to be dominated, hopefully, by mainly players and maybe some player investors, but not necessarily just investors looking to come in and, spike things up and take a quick profit and whatever the case is. It actually lends a little, credence to the idea that we won't have crazy volatility. And again, I stated before that there are benefits to crazy volatility in terms of bringing new people in, but there's also, if people come in a hype wave and then all of a sudden everything dies out, then everybody's going to be stuck sitting on land that they don't want, down, right, and not earning and whatever, and it's just going to be a bunch of complaining, which is what we had. And I still think that we're going to go through that, right, from a broader ecosystem perspective. I think with every major project, with every major crypto bull run, things get crazy, things get hot. SPS at some point will be valued more than it probably should be, and people will be buying in and then get burned on it, right? And that doesn't matter if it happens in 2025, it doesn't matter if it happens in 2029, whatever the case is, that's going to happen. But with land, if there's this slow and steady adoption as more and more gets released, and it really just is player / investor focused, I don't know. To me, again, not that land inherently is like super exciting, right? I just go and click harvest every once in a while, but the development of land over time as kind of being maybe this, I don't know what else to call it, but like this steady rock of the Splinterlands ecosystem could be interesting to watch as we go along. Now, we're still very much in the early stages, but it does get me excited for what land could represent. Not saying that land is going to be this super fun thing that brings a ton of people in, but for those who enjoy it for what it is and see the value of building something long term without the returns in mind, right? But just building something within a game focused on the game elements, but knowing, and this is the beauty of Web3 that we all love so much, but knowing that they own their assets, and if they want to, could liquidate at any time or get value back for it. That's kind of exactly what we want, right? So maybe land ends up being that just because it's so time, energy, financially resource intensive, right, to get involved, that people are only doing it because they actually love it. But again, that's just my thought process. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I will catch you all in the next video and see you around the game. Take care.